Hi, English Nomad here, and this is a channel update. This is episode number 8, and I want to just give everyone a very brief update on what's happening with the LandCruiser build. I've had this vehicle now for around 3 weeks, and in that time I've done a few what seems like small jobs, but actually they were quite time-consuming jobs. And that's fitting the spotlights. These are IPF Extreme Sport spotlights, halogens. This is the electrical control box for the winch that wasn't installed when the winch was put into the bull bar. I opted to do that myself because I wanted to make sure that I put the control box and the cabling and everything exactly where I wanted it to go. So I've done that. I've also installed a set of driving lights. These are halogen driving lights. These were also not in the bull bar when I picked the vehicle up. So those 2 jobs alone were time consuming because I had to fit the wiring looms for both sets of lights and put the switches in the vehicle so that you can switch them on and off independent of the lights. So I did all that. I've put all the cables and tidied all the cables up in the engine bay so it looks like a nice, neat installation. And I'll show you that in a little while when I show you what else I've done under the bonnet. I'm currently in the design phase of the camper module that's going on the back. I've been working on AutoCAD to come up with a design for the subframe, and I'm very close to finalising the design of the subframe so that I can start ordering materials for the subframe. Being a Boilermaker welder myself, I'll be fabricating it myself and doing all the welding and getting it ready for installation into the vehicle. And then once that portion of the build is started, I can start finalising the design of the accommodation cell or the accommodation pod that sits on top of the subframe. I had wrestled with the idea of whether I was going to make the camper a permanently mounted camper or whether I was going to make the camper a slide-off camper that can be removed. You have to excuse the road noise. I'm quite close to the main road, and you got typical Harley Davidson riders who've got big noisy exhausts. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So yeah, once I finalised the idea of how the camper is going to be mounted to the vehicle, and I'm pretty sure now it's going to be a slide-on slide-off affair, because there may be situations when I want to use the vehicle and I'm staying somewhere for more than a couple of days and I want to be able to just leave the camper module behind. Say I want to do a bit of sightseeing and I'm staying in one place for any particular reason. I'm free to just leave the camper behind and take off in the vehicle. So that's the plan. The construction is going to be a lightweight aluminium structure, and then that is going to be clad on the outside with aluminium sheet and on the inside with composite panels. But I'll get a little bit more into that as I start doing the build. But I'll put some photographs, screenshots from AutoCAD here, so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about in terms of what I believe it's going to look like, the structure. And other than that, yeah, I've been doing lots of little jobs as well, like I've fitted some seat covers. I'll show you those in a minute. Because I take the dog out in the car every day, I wanted to protect the upholstery. I've put some better floor mats in, which are called sand grabber mats. They allow you to keep the interior clean a little easier, because there's like a well and all the sand and stuff that you pick up on your feet will collect there, and it's easy to clean up. It's not getting into the pile of the carpet that's fitted by the manufacturer, which is a pain in the ass to get sand out of. Anyway, that's basically what I've been up to. I'll give you a look around the vehicle right now, what I've done. I'll show you some of the features I've added. So yeah, okay. Hi. So I'll just open the bonnet. So I'll just give you a look at some of the work that I've done. You can get a better view of the IPF spotlights that I've fitted. You can also see a better view of the halogen driving lights that I put in. Toyota don't supply this vehicle with driving lamps or fog lamps, so the wiring wasn't there to facilitate these lights. That's why the company who fitted it, which is TGM, they didn't fit the lights because the wiring wasn't there. I had to take an additional wiring loom and put an additional wiring loom to facilitate those lights, and the same with the spotlights. And as you can see, there's the winch controller. It's mounted to the bull bar. The wiring's been discreetly put through into the interior, so it's wired directly to the main battery. I'm not planning on running a second battery under the bonnet, as the camper is going to have 2 house batteries in the back, so I will have more than enough power to run all my auxiliary items. And I think it's always good practice anyway to run the engine when you're doing any winching, so you're not putting too much strain on the battery. So let's take a look at what I've done. So one of the items I've fitted, you can see just down there, it's the ARB compressor. That has been hardwired into the vehicle, so it's permanently wired. There's a switch on the dash to operate it. It's an essential piece of recovery equipment for off-road driving, or should I say it's an essential piece of equipment for off-road driving, because you should always run your tyre pressures to the conditions, and that means that you need some way of inflating your tyres when you get back to bitumen roads, and a compressor is definitely a must-have item for off-road driving. And ARB make really good compressors. I've had this compressor for a couple of years now, and it's never let me down. It's generally, you can inflate a tyre from around 16, 18 psi up to 40 psi in around 2 minutes. So you can have all your tyres back up to pressure in just under 10 minutes. It definitely does make life a lot easier for you if you have that already hardwired into the system. I had to fabricate a bracket, which you probably can't tell from here. You might be able to tell, but just down here, what it's sat on, there's a steel bracket, and that's mounted to the firewall. And there's an additional bracket just down here, which is mounted to the inner wing, and that is very securely mounted. A little bit of vibration there, but it's got rubber mounts on it as well anyway, so that there is a little bit of vibration that it can be absorbed by the unit. You can see from the battery, there's not a huge bird's nest of wiring going there. I've tried to keep all the additional cables quite tidy. So onto this side, I've installed the Fuel Master fuel filter. It's still to be plumbed in. I'm missing 2 half-inch MPT to quarter-inch MPT to half-inch barb tails, so I can run the half-inch pipe, which will eventually run around this side, along the firewall and down to the fuel filter on the other side, and this will be a pre-filter, so this will filter the fuel that comes from the fuel tank and take out the really big particles to prevent the factory filter from clogging up too quickly. The other benefit of this is if I choose to, when I go anywhere remote, I can swap out the filter that's in there currently and go to a finer filter, like a 5 micron filter, and that will protect the engine against contaminated fuel, which can be a problem when you drive in remote areas of Australia. You will also notice these here. These are just breathers for the diffs and gearboxes. The normal breathers that they put on the engine, on the drivetrain, should I say, they're only elevated a short distance from the top of the engine, the gearbox, should I say, and the differentials. So if you go through water, there's a risk that you can suck water into your diff, you can suck water into your gearbox, which is not something that you want to do. So what I've done is I've bought some of these sintered brass filters and a kit which allows you to run all of your breathers up to this point. So unless I was to go wading above this point, the diffs are going to be protected. I mean, it's not highly unlikely you'd be taking your vehicle up to this level in water. You're probably not going to get it back if you do. So those are the jobs that I've done up to now. They probably don't seem like big jobs, but the bracket for this filter was a quite time-consuming job to make. I could have bought one off the shelf, but I already had the filter. This filter came from my last vehicle, which was a Hilux, and essentially it's the same kit for this vehicle with a few minor changes, one being the bracket and one being the way that it's plumbed in. The Hilux has a smaller diameter plumbing, whereas this vehicle being a V8 and a 4.5 litre, it has slightly larger diameter fuel pipe, and therefore you need the barbs, and I have ordered them off eBay, so hopefully next time I do an update this will all be plumbed in and running tickety-boo. So we'll have a quick look inside the vehicle and I'll show you the inside now. These are the seat covers I got. They're a canvas seat cover. They're made by Gotcha Covers, which is a local manufacturer. They're made out of canvas. Very hard wearing, and I need a hard wearing seat cover, especially for Bronson, who sits in the passenger seat when we go out for rides. And I'll just quickly show you where I've mounted the switches for the compressor. So you'll just see down here there is a switch here for the compressor, and this is the switch for the driving lamps. So they operate independently from the main lights. And just tucked down here is the switch for the spotlights. Not happy with that position. I might see if I can relocate it to somewhere else. I put it there because it's only a little micro switch, and I was worried that if I put it somewhere else it might get damaged or kicked or something. I would prefer to have a rocker switch than the micro switch, but that's what comes in the wiring loom, so I may eventually replace that. And that's it really. I've got my GPS installed, the HEMA system. It's I've had it for quite a few years. It's never let me down. They've gone from a 5 to a 6 inch and then to a 7 inch, and now even that model's been superseded, so I'm a bit behind the times, but it does the job. It still has all the current maps on the system, so you know, when I go bush I can still navigate around the bush with that. And that's it. I will be definitely doing some more updates in the near future, more specifically around the build of the camper module. That should start in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to start ordering materials. I'm getting a new welding machine. I've already got one welding machine. I have a TIG machine, which is AC/DC, so I can weld aluminium. But I'm going to get a Kempe MIG welding machine, which will speed up the productivity of certainly on the welding side. I don't want to be doing all the welding with TIG, and I think MIG's going to be the way to go with the aluminium as well. TIG's great for welding aluminium, but distortion can be an issue, and obviously productivity. I want to be able to crash this job out, get the project moving. So yeah. If there's anything that you'd like to know, please don't hesitate. Comment below. I'm happy to answer any questions. And yeah, give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. Like this video, share this video, and above all, please comment.